I was deep into edits on a suppression ruling, chambers doors shut, noise-canceling headphones on, when my phone buzzed twice and lit up face up on the desk. Normally, I wouldn't have checked until break, but something about the sender made me pause. My sister-in-law, Candace. Quick note, before we go further, tell us where you're watching from. The text was short, clinical, surgical. Dad, Mom, and I talked. Judge Leonard Pike is coming to Dad's retirement party on Saturday. This matters for Nolan's career. Having you there would raise questions we'd rather not answer. Please understand. No intro, no hope you're doing well. Just a cutout, like I was a line item they deleted from the guest list. I stared at the screen. My thumb hovered. I typed 2 words. Understood. That was it. No sarcasm, no follow-up. No letting them hear how loud my pulse just got in my ears. I've learned that's how you deal with my family. You don't give them your throat, you keep it clean. Nolan, my younger brother, assistant U.S. attorney, Columbia Law, clerked on the Second Circuit, all shine, sharp edges, and good headlines. He's the one they brag about to friends from church, the serious son, the one they clear tables for. Me, I'm Gabriel Morales, Gabe, U.S. District Judge, Southern District of New York. 6 years confirmed, 92-5. The kind of judge who writes clean orders, runs a silent courtroom, and doesn't get overturned. My name goes on real decisions that real people live and die by. I wear the robe every morning at 9 a.m., sharp. But at the Morales dinner table, I do something in government law. Background noise. They once introduced me to a neighbor as in paperwork. A minute later, another text popped up, this one from Mom. Your father explained, Judge Pike is very distinguished. These judicial people can be fussy about propriety. Propriety? Right. Then Nolan himself. It's just optics, bro. Immediate family and legal colleagues only. I flipped the phone over, screen down. There was work to do. United States vs. Del Vecchio, 31 shell companies, dirty invoices tied to city maintenance contracts, and threats hidden in fake safety inspection reports. Trial set for Thursday. My courtroom, 5C. No one in that room would care who clapped at my father's banquet. The law doesn't ask for applause, and it damn sure doesn't send text messages like that. My deputy buzzed me. Prosecution's here for the pre-trial, I said. Send them in, without looking up from the bench memo. I heard Nolan's voice before I saw him, loud, confident, talking over his shoulder to his second chair. We'll lead with the account ledgers, then pivot to the union guys who flipped. That keeps us ahead of any surprise character angles from defense. Then he looked up. 3 seconds. That's how long it took for the recognition to hit. His mouth shut, eyes locked. His whole posture shifted, like someone slapped a tie straight on him. Then it all slid back into place. Suit and tie, smile, squared shoulders. Good morning, Your Honor. Nolan Morales for the government. I didn't flinch. Calendar items first, I said. We'll take up motions after. That's how I run every pre-trial. Clean, neutral, no favors. The U.S. Attorney's Office doesn't get a head start just because I share a last name with one of theirs. We worked through calendar conflicts, 2 witnesses with scheduling overlap, both medical exemptions backed by affidavit. I ruled tight on the defense's motion to suppress the wiretap, denied, but with a note on authentication procedures. Told both sides the courtroom tech was touchy with HDMI, so bring adapters. No jokes, no small talk. I could feel Nolan watching me the whole time, like he wasn't sure who I was anymore. When the conference wrapped, I told my clerk, "Give us 5." Door clicked shut. I turned to him. If you're going to move for recusal, do it now. Once we're underway, we stay underway. He didn't speak for a second. Then he swallowed. No motion. Your call? He stayed standing, looking like he was still processing. How long you been doing this? 6 years. That hit him. I saw it. He blinked like someone had hit a light switch behind his eyes. I didn't fill the silence. Let him do the math himself. Confirmation at 52, which meant 10 years as a federal prosecutor before that, plus clerking. He'd never asked before. I kept my voice even. Same rules for everybody. Arguments win or lose. not faces. He nodded, quiet now. I stood, walked around the bench. We shook hands, formal, polite, strangers. And the thing is, that handshake didn't feel new. It just put a name to something we'd been doing for years, keeping it surface level, sharp, professional, like we weren't even cut from the same house. He left without another word. As the door shut behind him, I looked down at my hand. It was still out midair, like it didn't believe what just happened. I dropped it, turned back toward Chambers. There was still work to do. Del Vecchio's trial didn't care about family tension or who sat where at dinner. The courtroom doesn't play favorites, and neither do I. Thursday morning, 8:58 a.m., I stepped into courtroom 5C. All rise. My robe hit behind my knees as I moved to the bench. The gallery creaked as reporters shifted in their chairs. 4 from local outlets, 1 from the Journal. Defense had their row of gray suits, tight collars, fresh fades, all nervous smiles. Government side looked like a law school ad. Nolan's team with color-coded binders spread out like a damn paint store across the table. Second row, dead center, sat the man himself. Silver hair, posture like a steel rod, and a jaw that could measure square angles. Judge Leonard Pike, Second Circuit. The one Nolan quoted like he wrote the Bible. He didn't nod. He didn't smile. Just watched. That kind of attention makes people sit straighter, even the ones not on trial. We rolled into voir dire. I kept it moving. No fluff, no grandstanding. I asked my questions clean and fast. Nobody flinched at the mob charges or the word racketeering. A couple jurors made noise about scheduling. I flagged them for later. By 12:25, we'd cleared 4 full hours. At lunch, my clerk poked his head in. Judge Pike's clerk asked if he could swing by for 5-10 minutes. Said Pike was curious about our courtroom setup. I said fine. Keep it light. 15 minutes later, Pike's clerk was in chambers with the man himself. He made a polite joke about the building still smelling like Nixon's socks. I offered water. He talked shop, calendar congestion, staffing ratios, courtroom management. I answered. He didn't seem impressed or bored, just locked in, like always. Then it came out. Casual tone, like it didn't matter. I'm in town for an accounting man's retirement. Ernesto Morales, you might know the name. His son's an AUSA, sharp kid, clerked for my old colleague, fine young lawyer. I just nodded. Yes, I've met Nolan. He smiled faintly. Well, he speaks like he's an only child, or close to it. I didn't blink. My mother's maiden name was Duarte. I used Morales in Chambers. That was it, nothing else. I didn't fill the air with details he hadn't asked for. He stood a minute later, shook my hand. Good courtroom, clean process, no wasted motion. Then, on his way out, he turned back. How long have you been on the district court, Judge Morales? 6 years. He paused, just a beat, then nodded, almost to himself. That look told me he understood something. Not gossip, not drama, but substance. That 6 years meant more than whatever Nolan had fed him. He didn't say anything else, just walked out. I stood there a second longer than I needed to. Then I sat back down and picked up the jury charts. Trial week doesn't wait. Friday hit like a furnace. From the moment court opened, everything ran loud and tight. The union foreman took the stand before lunch, voice steady while a wire recording played over the speakers. You could hear him explaining envelopes, percentages, how safety inspections turned into leverage. Defense jumped up twice, shouting coercion, badgering, selective pressure. I ruled clean, sustained where it mattered, overruled where it didn't. No speeches, no side-eye. The jury tracked every word. Pike sat there all day, hands folded, eyes sharp. He didn't whisper, didn't shift, just watched. By 4:30, my throat felt scraped raw from ruling. When the last juror filed out, I stepped back into chambers and loosened my collar. I hadn't even reached my desk when Pike's voice came from the doorway. Gabe, may I ask you something? His tone had changed, tight, controlled. Yes, Judge. He didn't step inside, just stood there like the question itself had weight. Are you related to Nolan Morales? Yes, I said. Older brother. That landed. He went quiet for a full beat, then his mouth pressed into a thin line. So, you're the one not invited. I didn't argue, didn't explain. I just met his eyes and nodded once. He exhaled through his nose. Slow. I thought so. That was it. No lecture, no apology. He gave a short nod and walked away down the hall. Saturday night, I stayed home. No suit, no robe. Just jeans and a t-shirt I'd had since law school. I made a turkey sandwich, put a ball game on mute, and dropped my phone into the kitchen drawer like it was something that might go off. It didn't stop it. At 7:42 p.m., the drawer buzzed hard enough to rattle. I let it sit. 10 minutes later, I checked. Nolan. Pike lit Dad up at the mic, asked why his daughter, no, his son, the federal judge, wasn't here. He had your confirmation article pulled up on his phone. I pictured it clear as day. Pike at the podium, calm voice. The kind of question that sounds polite but cuts bone. At 8:19, another buzz. Dad. Is it true, federal district judge? Why didn't you tell us? People are asking. That one hit different, not angry, confused. Like the room had shifted and he'd lost his footing. At 8:51, Mom. This is embarrassing. Call us. Embarrassing. Not hurt. Not proud. Embarrassing. I closed the drawer again. Let the crowd noise from the TV fill the apartment. At 10:03, a new vibration. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered the text. Judge Morales, Leonard Pike. If I overstepped, I'll own it. Watching your father celebrate his lawyer's son and blank on the judge he raised was too much. Integrity matters. I read it twice. My jaw tightened, but not in anger. Something steadier than that. I typed back, you told the truth. What they do with it is theirs. I hit send and set the phone face down on the counter. The ball game ended. I didn't notice who won. I washed my plate, wiped the counter, and stood there for a second longer than needed. Then I walked into the bedroom and shut the door behind me. Sunday morning hit like a fire alarm. I rolled over, checked my phone, and just stared. 22 missed calls, 51 texts. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I laced up my shoes and ran. 5 miles, hard pace, no headphones. Just my breath and the slap of my feet on wet pavement. When I got back, I peeled off my shirt, grabbed a towel, and caught movement on the front camera. Nolan, standing there like a stray with 2 coffees. I buzzed him in without a word. He didn't knock, just stepped inside, like the silence had already given him permission. Dark roast, he said, holding one out. I took it, nodded once, and walked into the kitchen. He followed. He looked wrecked. Shirt wrinkled, hair undone, bags under his eyes deep enough to pack for a weekend. He sat. No coat, no tie. Just the version of him I hadn't seen since we were kids. He asked Dad at the mic, Nolan said. Right there, in front of everyone. Where's your federal judge, son? He stared at the table like it might answer back. Dad froze, said you file paperwork for the government. Then Pike pulled up your confirmation vote, on his phone, like receipts. I sipped the coffee. It was bitter, strong. I didn't speak. Nolan did. You never made it clear. I raised my eyebrows. Didn't I? He opened his mouth, shut it. I told you twice, I said. First time, you pivoted to your Second Circuit clerkship before I finished the sentence. Second time, you laughed and said, "That's cute, bro," and started talking about a speech you gave. His jaw tightened. Looking back, I should have known. I didn't say anything. He looked up. You think I erased you. I think you did what made the Golden Sun version easier to sell. No competition, just clean headlines and a family that points in one direction. He winced. That's not fair. Then he stopped, took a breath. Actually, it probably is. We sat in it for a minute. No defense, no deflection, just quiet. Then he said, I'm sorry. Real, no qualifiers. I nodded. I don't need your guilt. I need you to understand something. He leaned forward. We're not in competition. I don't need to beat you. I need to be able to do my job without getting edited out of my own family because you think it plays better." His shoulders dropped. "You're the judge," he said. "I'll try the case." I met his eyes. "Do that." We made one rule: no family talk in courtroom 5C. Not a word, not a glance, not a joke. He agreed. We sat a while longer, drinking coffee that had gone cold. Then he stood, nodded once, and left. I finished mine alone, staring out the window, city quiet under gray clouds. Monday morning, I took the bench at 9 o'clock sharp. No smiles, no warm-up. Just docket numbers and the weight of everything that was about to unfold. The government opened with spreadsheets and audit trails, page after page of deposits from fake shell companies, most of them set up out of state, run through LLCs with dead addresses and no employees. The jury sat upright, jaws tight, hands still. Then came the kickback ledgers, physical notebooks, different handwriting, same pattern, pay in, pay out. Union assist, site bonus, safety override. One entry said flat out, city guy wants 5% cut on contract, standard fee. Defense hit back hard, called the whole thing an overreach built on assumptions. They barked about selective prosecution, bias against working-class contractors, called it a witch hunt dressed up in spreadsheets. I didn't let the room spiral. Every time counsel pushed toward theater, I cut them off clean. "Stick to evidence," I said more than once. "The jury's not here for drama." Pike sat second row every day. Same seat, same suit. Stone still. He took notes in a small black notebook that never left his lap. He didn't speak, he didn't blink much either, just wrote. By the second week, the tapes came in. The jury heard a foreman threaten to shut the whole damn site down unless a certain envelope landed in the right hand before Friday. You could hear the scrape of a chair, the silence after, like both men knew what got recorded. Nolan handled the redirect without ego. He didn't lean into the spotlight. He just walked the jury through it, piece by piece, showed them the math. Let the recordings speak for themselves. He said, "This isn't about one bad deal. It's about a system. This is what corruption sounds like when no one thinks you're listening. No drama, just facts." Week 3 was tight. Cross-examinations ran hot. Defense brought in character witnesses in shiny shoes. Church deacons, business partners, old family friends who said the defendants were upstanding men who don't even know how to cheat. One guy called the RICO charges a fantasy cooked up by the government. I overruled half his nonsense before he got through his third sentence. Summations wrapped at 4:10 p.m. on a Friday. The jury looked exhausted. I didn't drag out the charge. I gave it to them clean. Law, elements, burden of proof, no fluff, no misdirection. They started deliberating Monday, broke at 6, came back Tuesday. At 3:36 p.m., my clerk handed me a note. Verdict reached. Courtroom filled up fast. Reporters came back. A couple family members lined the gallery. Nolan stood behind the government's table with his hands folded tight in front of him. I called for the jury. They filed in, eyes forward. The foreperson held the form with both hands like it might break. I asked the question, "Has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?" "Yes, Your Honor." She handed the form to the clerk. He read it. "On all counts, the jury finds the defendants guilty." For a second, no one moved, no coughs, no shuffling. Then came the sound I'd been waiting for, the rustle of people breathing again. Defense counsel slumped. One of the defendants dropped his head and didn't raise it again. Nolan didn't react. No fist pump, no nod. Just a small exhale, barely visible. I thanked the jury, excused them, and recessed court. Pike stood up last, closed his notebook. He looked right at me as he left the room. Just a small nod. The kind that says, "That'll do." Pike caught me outside chambers as the courtroom emptied. He offered his hand. "Textbook management," he said. "Dinner next month. Judges, appellate folks, honest war stories. You're coming." I nodded. "I'll bring my best one-liners." He cracked half a smile. That was a compliment in Pike speak. That night, my phone buzzed. Dad, dinner next Sunday, 7 o'clock. We'd like to celebrate you properly. I read it twice, then replied, I'll pick the place. I booked a quiet spot 2 blocks from the courthouse. Italian, leather booths, dim light, old black and white photos of famous trials on the walls. Waiters who call you judge without making it a big deal. They showed up 15 minutes early, mom in pearls, dad in the gray sport coat he saves for events. Nolan wore a tie. That surprised me more than the dinner invite. First thing out of their mouths, parking complaints. 2 blocks up, all meters were taken. I circled 3 times before someone backed out. We got seated, ordered drinks. Bread hit the table, then silence. No one touched the menus. Dad cleared his throat. We owe you more than an apology. I looked him dead in the eye. Do you want comfort or truth? He swallowed. Truth. So I gave it to him. Undergrad on scholarship, Columbia Law, full ride, 10 years as a federal prosecutor, clerked for Justice Ames, nominated at 52, confirmed 92-5. They didn't interrupt, I went on. I've got 200 cases on my docket. I've had to sentence people with their kids in the room. I've handled civil rights lawsuits, white-collar indictments, asylum hearings, cartel trials. You know what it feels like to run a courtroom where everyone's about to lose something and still keep it calm? Dad blinked. It feels like standing in the middle of a lightning storm and making sure nobody dies. You don't get to raise your voice. You don't get to flinch. Mom pressed her napkin into her lap like she needed something to hold on to. Nolan didn't say a word, just stared at the table like it might crack open. I took a sip of water, let it sit. Then the waiter came back for orders, and everyone suddenly remembered they were hungry. We picked meals, talked about safe things, pasta, the Yankees, Mom's friend from church who retired to Arizona. Over dessert, Nolan leaned in and said, By the way, your jury instructions? They're getting taught to new AUSAs. I raised an eyebrow. He grinned a little. We've been passing them around the office. I kid you not. I didn't need the compliment, but it landed anyway. Mom reached for her water, then glanced at me. What does it feel like? I looked up. The robe? She nodded. It feels like a responsibility you carry with both hands, I said. You don't get to drop it, not once. She sat with that, really sat with it. For once, nobody rushed to fill the silence. Then Dad asked about my current caseload, actual interest, not just filler. I gave him a quick sketch, sentencing hearings, civil backlog, a potential FISA case warming up in the corner. He listened, really listened. It had been decades since I saw that look on his face. On the sidewalk afterward, he pulled his hands from his coat pockets and said, I showed your confirmation clip at the office this week, played it 3 times. I turned to him. He looked me square in the eye. I'm proud, son. This time, he meant it. Nolan stayed back and walked with me to my car. Still had that quiet buzz of energy on him, the kind that hangs after a case lands. Pike called me in this morning, he said, recommended me for the securities fraud task force. That's big, I said. He said if I keep my head straight, it's mine. Then he said, if you ever misrepresent your family again, I'll end you. I let out a breath. That sounds like him. Nolan laughed, but there was a weight behind it. I'm serious, I said. Keep doing the work. That's what matters. Let the myth building be someone else's problem. He nodded. Deal. We stood at my car for a second. No rush to leave. Monthly dinners, he said. We stick to them. No courtroom talk. Unless someone at the table asks, what do you actually do? And then they have to sit through the real answer, I said. Start to finish, he agreed. I unlocked the car. He stepped back. See you soon, Judge, he said. You better, I told him. Then I got in, closed the door, and pulled away. 5 months later, I stood behind a podium at the Federal Judicial Conference in D.C. The panel title, Impartiality When Family Shows Up in Your Courtroom. The other judges wanted drama, scandal. That one case where somebody cracked. I gave them none of it. I laid out the protocols, conflict disclosures, recusal windows, a clean wall between personal ties and courtroom business, bright lines, no exceptions. My family sat front row, hands folded like they were in church, Mom in a navy blazer, Dad wearing that same sport coat from dinner. Nolan took notes, which almost made me laugh. Afterward, during Q&A, a second-year law student in glasses raised her hand. She asked, "How do you stay calm when your own people don't see you?" I thought about it, then said, "You stay calm when you know the work stands without applause. If it's solid, truth has a way of showing up anyway. Maybe late, maybe loud, but it shows." I stepped off stage. Pike was waiting. He shook my hand hard and said, "You're gonna teach a generation of judges how to think." He wasn't being dramatic. Pike doesn't do dramatic. Dad came next, put a hand on my shoulder, steady grip. He said, "We didn't look. That's on us. We're looking now." I believed him. Nolan caught up with me on the way to the exit. He said, "I've started asking my team who in their lives might be doing hard things without an audience." I raised an eyebrow. "It's making me a better supervisor," he said. We kept walking. I peeled off toward the exit to head back to my hotel. But before I stepped out, I paused at the back of the room. They were still resetting the stage, folding chairs, clearing cables. And I thought about that party, the one I never went to. I thought about Pike dropping the match in that banquet hall, and how the silence after said more than 1,000 speeches. That moment burned through a lot of old, dumb stories. I didn't walk away with a medal, no headline, no revenge with a capital R. But I got something better. The room finally turned its head. And once people look straight at you, really look, they don't unsee it. Not if you keep doing the work.